They might call it the city of brotherly love, but there is no love between these two teams as the Philadelphia Flyers come down to Tobacco Road to face the Carolina Hurricanes in another Metro Division showdown.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the Carolina Hurricane credentialed beat writer over at the Hawk Riders. I also do a column on the Chicago Wolves called Wolves Weekly. Also the co-host of the Search Cast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a game day preview edition for everyone on this Tuesday show as the Philadelphia Flyers come to Raleigh to face the Carolina Hurricanes in what is 3 straight Metro Division showdowns for your Hurricanes after playing Washington on Sunday. And of course, we got the Pittsburgh Penguins coming to town on Thursday. We're going to do the tales of the tape. We're going to be looking at in terms of how are the two teams matching up so far early in the contest in the season. Also going to be doing my usual 3 keys to the game for your Carolina Hurricanes and how they're going to be looking to try and make this a 7-game win streak, and also who are going to be the players to watch for your Carolina Hurricanes, along with maybe some Philadelphia Flyers as well. But before we jump into everything that is for a game day preview edition of the podcast, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So now, like I said, the Carolina Hurricanes are hosting the Philadelphia Flyers for their first showdown of the season between the two teams. And, of course, it's three games this year between the two sides. The next one is going to be in a couple weeks on November 20th, which is going to be in Philadelphia. And then they're going to have a few months in between each other where they will be playing once again in Philadelphia on March 15th. Of course, the game in November, the other later this month is 7:30, and the one that's in March is going to be at 7 o'clock. But tonight's game for your Hurricanes against Philadelphia Flyers will be a 7 p.m. puck drop, and you can watch it on the FanDuel Sports Network South, or you can also listen to it on 99.9 The Fan with Mike Maniscalco and Tracy per usual. Now, looking at the overall team stats between the two teams, the Carolina Hurricanes do have them on the advantage in the power play. They are 7th in the league at 26.5 compared to the Philadelphia Flyers at 19%. Now, in terms of the penalty kill, both these teams are pretty evenly matched, with Philadelphia at 88.4% and the Carolina Hurricanes are at 84.6%, with Philadelphia 4th and the Hurricanes 7th. Now, that could mean they have a really good penalty kill, but that also means they're on the penalty kill a lot, which the Hurricanes fans should recognize from a couple seasons ago where they almost had a 90% penalty kill, because it's similar, they're always on the penalty kill almost every single night. Now, in terms of faceoffs, the Flyers are 8th in the league with 52.1, and the Hurricanes are at 49.4. Now, this is where it's going to be very interesting. In terms of the goals for and the goals allowed, the Carolina Hurricanes are in the top 5 in both of these categories, where they are 5th in the league at goals for with 3.9, while only laying in 2.3 per game, and that puts them 2nd. Now, their counterparts in Philadelphia, who are 4-7-1 on the season, they are 27th in goals for at 2.5, but they're also letting in 3.67, which, in terms of the goals for, that's 27th in the league. In goals allowed, that puts them at 28. So, if you remember from the Edmonton game, Edmonton had pretty much the same numbers. Of course, you really can't take anyone lightly, because in the NHL, pretty much anyone can beat anyone. So I definitely know for the next 2 games, I know we'll preview the Pittsburgh for the Thursday episode of the show, but you don't really want to overlook any of these teams, especially you don't want to fall into that trap game. So it's, while they aren't scoring a lot, while also giving up a ton as well, it's a John Tortorella-led Flyers team who always seem to give the Carolina Hurricanes a lot of trouble, especially if it's in Carolina or in Philadelphia. So it's one of those things where, yeah, in terms of the tails of the tape, the Hurricanes do have an advantage on a good majority of these stats outside of penalty kill and faceoff percentage. It's still one of those things where you don't really, like I said, fall into that trap and you get caught, flat-footed and something happens because while the Flyers are 3-6-1 in their last 10 games, they have beaten Boston and St. Louis recently, but they also did lost to Boston as well. But they're still a team that will still play hard and still try to find a way to score points. Now, for your Carolina Hurricanes in their last 10 games, of course, they're 8-2-0 on a 6-game winning streak after beating Edmonton, Calgary, Seattle, Vancouver in overtime. Also, Edmonton was in overtime, and then Boston and Washington. Now, for me, in terms of what, just by looking at how the two teams match up and just, how they're playing so far in their 10 games, recently, yeah, like I said, the Flyers are 3-6-1, but they've beaten two teams that, the Hurricanes didn't beat St. Louis, unfortunately, but they did beat Boston. They beat them pretty handily on Halloween night, but of course, Boston got their revenge, against the Philadelphia Flyers, in their last game. So it's, while they have won 3 games in their last 5, it's still like I said, it's still a Philadelphia Flyers team where you're looking at how their goaltending is over the last 5 games in total. Sam Erson's 4-2-1 with a 268 goals against and a 901 save percentage with a shutout. But Ivan Fedotov, who's supposed to be like one of their other goalies of the future, he's 0-3-0 with a 535 goals against and an 821 save percentage. Of course, like I said, that's in the last 5 games. Things will be very different overall for the season for the team as a whole. But if you're looking at what you could be seeing in terms of, how it's going to match up, it's one of those things where it's like I said, you don't want to fall into the trap. You don't want to put yourself in a bad spot, especially when, you're feeling pretty good about yourselves. Winners are your last 6. You started off November with a great win over Washington, and Dmitry Orlov even said it too post game. It's like, yeah, it's good that you've won 6 in a row. You're on a good start to the season, but you also got he even said you got Philadelphia and Pittsburgh coming up, and that's 2 big Metro Division showdowns that like I said, anyone can beat anyone. And while you got Colorado coming up on Saturday on the road, then you got Vegas next week, and then you go to Utah for the first time. These are those types of games where you really don't want to overlook them, especially against the fact that it's against Metro Division teams who are pretty much struggling right now, especially with the Philadelphia Flyers, who are dead last in the division right now, and just how they've been playing. It's one of those things where, yeah, it's like you might want to be looking forward to other games as well, but it's also you don't want to overlook certain games as well, because like I said, with Philadelphia, they're 4-7-1, 9 points, dead last in the division. They're a -13 in goal differential. Like I said, they're 2-4-0 at home, 2-3-1 on the road. It's one of those things where, yeah, they are a struggling team right now. Of course, you do got 2 games in hand over Philadelphia. Like they will shock people. They've beaten some teams, so it's not like they're not one of those teams that are so far down at the bottom of the list that it's like, okay, you're not like San Jose, who's got like 8 points. Of course, it's 1 game, it's 1 point. There's a bunch of other teams at 9, but like I said, it's the NHL. Anyone can beat anyone. And for your Carolina Hurricanes, they do have 5 games in hand on the first place New Jersey Devils in the division. They're 1 game. They have a 1-game advantage over the Rangers, who's only a point ahead of them. And, the Hurricanes are a +16 in goal differential. 3-1-0 at home, 5-1-0 on the road. Like I said, winners of 6 straight. So you're taking that and hopefully be able to build on top of that and doing what you need to do. And and that's why I think, with how the 2 teams are stacked up right now or matched up, it should be one of the Hurricanes that should win. And honestly, I believe that they should. Well, like I said, you don't want to overlook Philadelphia. You want to do what you need to do to win this game. So that being said, I will be doing my 3 keys to the game, so make sure to stick around as we will dive into all of that here in a little bit on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. We're driven for the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for candidates isn't a search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. What I like about it is the fact that you can upload your resume, certificates, licenses, or anything else that you have. That way, you can figure out what you're looking for, and hopefully, Indeed can help you match you with the job that you're looking for. But now, if you're an employer, well, as long as you're catering to what you're looking for and what qualifications you're seeking, what preferences that you want, well, Indeed can work with that. And by leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Once again, that is Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? Well, you need Indeed. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Once again, that is FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So going into 3 keys for the game for your Carolina Hurricanes, and it's something where it's a nice little change from what we've been seeing, and for the fact that it's a little bit of a difference of what my previous keys have been for other games as well. But for this one, I think it's kind of harkening back to where you kind of saw with the power play against Washington, where they were moving the puck around a lot, but they weren't really getting quality chances. And I think they were starting to get a little bit too cute with it, a little too fancy with it. I think for the Carolina Hurricanes in this one, you don't want to break away from what you've been doing, do what's been working for you, because you had a run during the road trip where you had 5 straight games with the power play goal. And against Washington, it's just one of those things where you don't really want to start getting lackadaisical with it, or start playing more than what you've been doing. Like, go back to what's worked for you. And I think that's why it's more of a, while the power play has been playing well, of course, like I said, outside of going 0-3 against Washington on Sunday, I think this is where it's like you don't want to get too cute with it. Just go back and play go back and play what's worked for you on the power play, because with how stacked that first unit is with Martin Necas, Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, Shane Gostisbehere, Seth Jarvis. It's like you got to do what's been working for you, and I think that they got to stop being cute on the power play. Just go and execute, do what you need to do, and that just kind of leads back into the fundamentals of what's been working so far for the Canes, and that's why you're on a 6-game winning streak. Is just keep playing how you've been playing. As they say in Bull Durham with Kevin Costner, you don't mess with the winning streak. And that's what you don't do. Don't mess with the winning streak. Right now, you're doing everything you need to do. I mean, Martin Neat just went blonde, and he's on an absolute heater. And sorry to tell you, Marty, you ain't going back to anything else other than blonder for a while, because it is somehow it's unlocked something in him. Maybe he's gone Super Saiyan with the new hair. Who knows? For all my Dragon Ball Z fans, it's one of those things where it's like whatever's working for you right now, don't change a thing. I know. It's like, oh well. There might be, you might be, I'm like, I'm not superstitious, but I'm a little stitious. Well, be superstitious as much as you can, because right now everything's working in your favor. Just don't mess with anything. So that kind of just like I said, that kind of ties into the first, into my first part of don't be cute. Just do what works, because that's what you just need to do. Figure out what's been working and just stick with it. And going back, and then for my second part is I've talked about like limit the penalties and stuff like that. It's been because you don't want to give them like a bunch of teams like 4, 5, 6 opportunities. You want to try to keep it to 3 or less. But for this one, it's still kind of like that, but it's more of a it's a trend I've been kind of noticing, especially against Boston and Washington, is the taking the unnecessary penalties, where it's some of them are a little bit tick tacky, but also like just the Hurricanes sometimes are never going to get the benefit of the doubt, especially when it comes to the refs, especially in the league. Of course, you can say that for every team, but the Hurricanes are pretty, it's well known that the Hurricanes get called a lot for a lot of, you could have said nothing to that one, but you just got to watch out for the unnecessary penalties. Don't fall into, like I said with Boston, don't fall into their trap of, if things starting to get heated, you get feisty back, you also get taken to the box. Same thing against Philadelphia. While their penalty kill is 4th in the league, you still want to take the advantage of that opportunity, because your power play is still really good. I mean, you're putting yourself in a good spot there. But overall, I would say just try to limit the unnecessary penalties that have been happening a lot recently. Like, if you're going to take a penalty, take one that's going to, if it's one that's going to be okay, it is what it is, that's fine. But if it's like, okay, could you avoid it? Yes. So I think that's where you're kind of looking into the maybe we shouldn't fall into that trap. So I would say right now it's kind of just stick to what's been working for you on the power play. 5-on-5, and that kind of ties into the penalty kill. Just don't fall into the unnecessary penalties. Don't be, you're getting beaten, you get lazy, and you try to put your stick on someone and you get called for a hook, or you're not controlling your stick enough and you might get called for a trip or a high sticking or stuff like that. So it's just, stick to what's been working for you, stick to the fundamentals. Just, don't get cute with how your stick is. Just stay in control, find ways to keep yourself in a good spot so we're not getting called consistently, because like I said, no matter how this league is, you definitely don't want to give teams more opportunities on the man advantage than need be. And for my last key to the game, just when it comes to, I've been saying it all episode, don't fall into the trap. Don't overlook the Flyers. Yes, they're not playing really well. Yes, they're last in the division. But this is one of those classic trap games where you beat Boston pretty handily. You beat another hot start team in the Washington Capitals. You look at Philadelphia, you're like, okay, they're last in the division. And, and you're looking ahead to like, okay, Pittsburgh's coming up. We already beaten them. They're bottom half of the division. No, just don't overlook these teams, because this isn't a league anymore where you're looking 10 or even 15 years ago where it's like, okay, circle this team, it's going to be a win. That's just not how it is in the NHL anymore. Like I said, anyone can beat anyone, and like I said, the last thing you really want to do is throw up a stinker to Philly and Pittsburgh, because you're talking Metro Division points are on the line. You'll take anything you can get. Like I said, you have a game in hand on the Rangers, you're 1 point back. You have 5 games in hand on the Devils, and you're 2 points back. You have the opportunity to go into you have the opportunity to host Philadelphia tonight and find a way to secure 2 points, maybe potentially leapfrog the Rangers depending on how their game goes, or you're still within a point, but you still got a game in hand on them, depending if they're playing or not. And if they aren't, then now you're second in the division. Now you play the same amount of games as the Rangers, but you still probably have 4 or 5 games in hand on the Devils, and now you're tied with them for the division lead. So you have the opportunity to put yourself in a good spot in a big Metro swing where all the points are going to matter against Metro Division foes. So yes, while you should be beating Philadelphia tonight, don't overlook them and start looking ahead. You got to play. It's for me, this whole season is going game by game. It's not, oh, I'm going to circle this game because I'm looking forward to this one, and this game's kind of whatever because it's against this team. This is a season where you're in a transition year. While yes, you are on a hot streak right now, you don't want to overlook teams and you don't want to fall into those traps of, oh, it's a bad team, we should beat them. No, don't fall into trap games. Just don't do that. Take it by game basis, and you should be fine. Now, that's our three keys of the game. Who are the players that fans need to watch tonight for your Carolina Hurricanes? Well, stick around as I'll go over that here in a second on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in reward winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long with PrizePicks. Now, with PrizePicks, now offers Venmo for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals into your account this sports season. Sign up today and get $50 instantly. You play $5. You don't even need to to receive $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Do you think Connor McDavid will get more than half a goal next week when he does eventually come back? Or do you think Austin Matthews will have more than 1.5 points in the next game? Well, you can kick up hot takes with your friends and win real money this hockey season when you and your crew run your game with PrizePicks. Now, for me, I can go into a game where I'm thinking, okay, does David Pastrnak have more than 2.5 shots on goal? Or do I think that Sidney Crosby is going to have more than 1.5 goals per game? Well, you can do that with PrizePicks. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONAHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Once again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONAHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Well, you can do that with PrizePicks, where you can run your game. Welcome back to section 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So like I said, we're going to look into the players to watch for your Carolina Hurricanes coming up tonight against the Philadelphia Flyers. And this is kind of almost a no-brainer pick right now just because of how hot this guy has been to start the season, and that is Martin Necas. How about 6 goals, 12 assists for 18 points in 10 games? And he is tied for the team leading goals with Jack Roslovic. Leads the team in assists. Next one is Jesperi Kotkaniemi with 7, and then Andrei Svechnikov at 11 for the points. He is tied with Eric Robinson for the plus-minus at +9. And in terms of shots, Martin Necas has only put up 21 shots so far this season. Of course, that's led by Andrei Svechnikov at his 41. But total of ice time that Necas has seen so far this season, for the forward core at least, 17 minutes and 52 seconds. But in terms of what you're seeing on the points side of things and just how he's been playing overall, Martin Necas has been on an absolute tear right now. And sometimes you really love to see for a guy who's, I've talked about this for the last few episodes, someone who's gone from a $3 million to $6.5 million contract. He's on a 6-game point streak. He's gotten, I think, 6 multi-point games in the last 8. Like that's pretty good for Martin Necas if you're looking at the fact that he's had 6 multi-point games already in the last 8. Now, I'm not saying you're going to expect him to get multi-points every night, but I can definitely see where a point streak could stay alive. Now, could he keep this pace up for the whole season? I doubt it, but hey, you never know. Like I said, so far this season, it seems like he's just been playing with a more free style to his game, and I feel like you're kind of seeing with Rod Brind'Amour of like, yeah, you still want to see that structured system that RBA's instilled with the Carolina Hurricanes, but also still finding a way to letting his guys kind of now do what they're good at, and that's why you're kind of seeing like Jack Roslovic playing the way he is and, having 6 goals on the season. Or you're seeing Martin Necas, doing what we all hope he could do, where, uses his speed, enters the zone, not having to look for the secondary pass. He's shooting the puck, and he's doing it in a way where it's like he's not overshooting, but he's taking the quality shots that is needed, and that's why you see where he's at, to where he's almost at a 2 points per game pace. So that's something you really love to see from Martin Necas, and that's like I said, it's being at this point, it's like, okay, this guy's kind of like an automatic player to watch, but just the way he's been playing so far with the multi-point games and just where he's at right now, you love to see that, and that's why it's kind of a no-brainer pick for right now for your first guy to watch, and that is Martin Necas. Now, the other guy I want to keep an eye on, and hopefully, it's not confirmed if he's starting tonight, but I wouldn't be surprised if he is. That's Pyotr Kochetkov, 5-1-0. He's only led in 15 goals so far this season. He does have an 893 save percentage and a 251 goals against. Now, with Pyotr, the save percentage also, it's to the point where it's kind of like you kind of have to overlook where it's like, okay, it's below 9. Why is it so bad? Well, outside of the St. Louis game where he gave up 5 goals on 19 shots to give him a 789 save percentage, over the last 4 games, 938 save percentage and gave up 2 goals against Calgary. An 889 save percentage against Vancouver, where he gave up 3 goals. A 867 save percentage against Boston, where he gave up 2 games. But that was on 15 shots. So he stopped 13 to 15. And then against Washington, he gave up 2 goals with a 905 save percentage on 21 saves. So it's one of those on 21 shots at face. So you're looking at, over the last 4 games he's played, stopped 30 of 32, 24 of 27, 13 out of 15, and 19 out of 21. For me, I would take the save percentage right now as a grain of salt because of the fact that it's outside of the Blues game where, he gave up 5 on 19 and his save percentage was under 8. He's had a really solid save percentage in terms of shots, goals allowed on shots attempted. Like I said, with Boston, he stopped 13 of 15. I mean, what can you really do? I mean, what can you do at that point? It's just you're not getting a lot of shots against you, let a couple in. I mean, your save percentage isn't great, but you look at everything else, he's been pretty solid. So it'll be interesting to see what Rod Brind'Amour and Paul Schofielder, the goaltending coach, is going to do. And, because, you got Philly tonight, you got Pittsburgh Thursday, you got Colorado on Saturday, you got 4 games this week before you have a small mini break before you go into playing Vegas and then Utah next week. And then you got a couple of days off before you come back to the East Coast for a game next Saturday. So it's like, do you go with Pyotr, even with every day off, and let him just kind of start bulking up a lot of starts? Or do you go to Spencer Martin and try to give Pyotr a rest? If I'm the Hurricanes, this is kind of like the opportunity to where, Freddie's out week to week. Pyotr's going to be your goalie of the future and the now because you got him for 2 more years after the season. Maybe it's a good time to see, okay, what's Pyotr like where he's getting a bulk of the starts? Because from what we've heard is he's better when he's playing a lot. So maybe this is the chance where, you do have every day off before you play a game. So maybe this is where you might see Pyotr Kochetkov play 4 games this week. Or you see him play against all the Metro teams, and then you see what Spencer Martin does against Colorado. But for me, if you're going into this game, I think Pyotr Kochetkov is the guy you want to go on. So he's the other guy I want to keep an eye on. Now, the other guy you want to keep an eye on for sure, just how, they've been playing, is Jack Roslovic. 6 goals in 10 games this year. He's a +3, 27 shots, and he's doing this while averaging just a tad over 13 and a half minutes per game. Now, can he, if the thing that's been working for him is playing first-line minutes with Aho and Svechnikov, his speed's been a really big factor. And, of course, Seth Jarvis talked about it in the offseason. So it's really worked for him. So, you're kind of looking, okay, you're playing a team that's like Philadelphia, a little bit more physical. It's the John Tortorella team. How's Jack Roslovic going to do in terms of setting up Aho and Svech and all that while, using his speed and, also being the guy who's not afraid to throw the body around as well, especially against the Philadelphia Flyers team like that. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how Jack Roslovic does. And, does he keep up with Martin Necas in terms of the goal pace that they're kind of on right now? Because he scored 9 all of last year. He's already up to 6. So it's curious to see what Jack can do against the Philadelphia Flyers in another Metro Division showdown. But that will wrap up another edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Thank you, everyone, for making this your first listen of the day. Now, for your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey, become a fantasy hockey expert, and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to keep up with me, I am OneTrueZach on X. The podcast is LO_Hurricanes. There's a link to my bio where you can check out all of my articles at the Hockey Writers, or just go to thehockeywriters.com, go to our Carolina Hurricanes section, you'll find that over there. Or if you do click on my link tree, there is a link to where you can find my author page over at the Hockey Writers where you see all my articles over there. Make sure to go to the Searchcast, go search that on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. For this show, just go to all podcast platforms, go to Locked On Hurricanes, make sure to subscribe, leave a 5-star rating and review, because if you do, I might just read it on the show. For the YouTube side of things, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell notifications so you don't miss the show, hit the thumbs up button, let me know you like the show as well. Share with all their Caniacs so they become everydayers just like you, because we are well over 1,000 subscribers now. But let's keep this rolling. Let's get to 2, 5, 10. Let's not slow this thing down. But I hope everyone enjoyed this Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. I hope everyone enjoys watching the game against the Philadelphia Flyers tonight. And until next time, as always, let's go Canes.